Absolutely loaded show today. We're talking college baseball conference tournaments. We're answering a question about last year's first-round college pitchers, and we're talking to the SEC Co-Player of the Year, Sonny Deshara, who is draft eligible. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome. Welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, baseball writer for Sports Illustrated. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. And absolutely loaded show. This is the time of year where MLB's in full swing. We've gotten past some of the service time manipulation stuff. If you've listened to yesterday's show, we talked about that. And college baseball's hitting the postseason. So we're about to see a bunch of these guys go out, perform, and then get drafted high in July. So a couple things we need to make sure that we cover as we enter the conference tournaments. First, the biggest storyline of this whole thing is number one overall seed Tennessee. They've pretty much locked it in now. And no number one overall seed has won the College World Series in this century. It happened in 1999. Miami did it. But it's not happened this year. So I'm anxious to see what's going to happen. They play their first game of the SEC Tournament on Wednesday. But outside of that, going to be a lot of fun things to watch. Do need to mention the College Baseball Player of the Year. It's going to be Ivan Melendez out of Texas. Redshirt junior, he's draft eligible. He will get taken. And it's something where his nickname that the fans have given him is the Hispanic Titanic. It's the rhyming. The rhyme is the thing. But 421 average, 1 percentage point off of best in the country, 28 home runs, leads the country. 85 RBIs, 4 off of the lead. Just absolute destruction. Tied the Texas record for home runs in a season. Obviously, there's a conference tournament, and then there's the postseason to go, so he's going to obliterate that and just having an absolutely massive season. But when you look at some of the different tournaments, some of the different conferences, kind of have to. SEC Tournament starts on Tuesday. I think it's like 9:30 in the morning. Central, they're playing in Hoover, Alabama. 4 games a day, first 4 days. And then it's 2, and then it's 1 and 1. So the odds-on winner for this whole thing, like I said, is going to be Tennessee. But a sleeper to me, I think, is going to be Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a team, if you follow baseball, professional baseball, and where those players come from, you know all about Vanderbilt. They call them the Vandy Boys. It's been a kind of a rocky season, but they've got tons of pitching talent. They have a guy who's going to be a first rounder next year in center field, and Enrique Bradfield Jr. Going to be an absolutely fantastic. The ACC tournament starts on Tuesday. It's going to be on the ACC network. You can watch this. I think the winner's probably going to be Virginia. This whole thing is held at Truist Field in Charlotte. Very hitter-friendly park. And I just see Virginia and Virginia Tech both having great setups here. Virginia Tech's got a lot more of that draftable talent like Gavin Cross and Jack Hurley. But I think that's gonna be a great matchup. Sleeper pick there's got to be Wake Forest. Big 12 tournament is going to be in Arlington. That is going to be at Globe Life Field. So giant cavernous thing there. I think Texas is probably going to be the favorite to win that. Not tops in the Big 12 right now, but I feel like their game translates best to that field. But Oklahoma State has the pitching depth. It's going to be an interesting matchup as well. West Virginia, I think, is a good sleeper there too. They have a good style for tournament play. They score runs in bunches. The pitching can hold up when it needs to. That's going to be really interesting to watch. The Pac-12, for the first time, is having a tournament. They're having it in Scottsdale, Arizona. So, Arizona in late May. It's going to be hot. But I think I think Oregon State's the favorite here. They briefly had number one back when Tennessee dropped it, but Oregon State, deep roster, great pitching staff led by a guy we talk about all the time, Cooper Herpe. I really think they're probably going to do it. Oregon's, I think, a good sleeper. They score runs in bunches. I think they're the second highest scoring team in the Pac-12. Obviously, I mean, all of the conferences, so the way that this works, just to kind of clarify if you're not sure about this, there are 33 conference, 31, 33, a lot of conference tournaments. So just about half the spots in the postseason are decided, 31 conferences, are decided by who wins the conference tournament. That's 31. The other 33 spots are all at large. So that's where your RPI comes into play. That's where your strength of schedule comes into play. And then that's where there's that small part about, can your ballpark meet the requirements to host as far as capacity and facilities and things like that. So when you go down and you look at some of these leagues, it actually says the highest rank, like the automatic qualifying spot, goes to the highest available seed that can meet facility criteria. The Horizon League or the Horizon Conference doesn't have a tournament. The highest available seed that meets the facility criteria gets the spot. Mid-American, same way. They don't have a tournament. The Southland has the number 1 and number 2 seeds both get in, and then it's the highest remaining seeds for the final spots. But all of these other conferences, one guaranteed spot. Everybody else has to play their way in. So what you're trying to do is, one, you're trying to make the field. So a field of 64, you're going to be a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4 seed. So you're trying to make the field. From there, the goal is you want to be, if possible, you want to be a 1 seed, because a 1 seed means you get to host the regional. And then, if at all possible, you want to be a top 8 seed, because that means if you advance to a super regional, you would get to host that as well. You would be at home for that. So, lots of great college baseball coming up, starting on Tuesday, running all the way through the long weekend. Most of these are supposed to finish up the 28th or the 29th, because at noon Eastern on Monday, May 30th, that's when they announce the official bracket of 64 teams, who is hosting, who is not, and where everybody's going to be. So lots of college baseball to watch this week, lots of draft-eligible guys you can check out. And in just a minute, I want to get to some of last year's star college pitchers, including quite a few we saw in the College World Series, and where they are this year as far as the guys that were drafted in the first round. Where are they? Which affiliate are they at? What level are they in? But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find out the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, next season, like UFC and stuff, not just like street fights, UFC and whatever, MMA. They're different. I don't know. Next season's NFL futures, all of that's in there. Obviously, we've been going on Rookie of the Year odds. We're due for an update on that in probably about 2 weeks or so. It'd be great to see how that's changed in a couple weeks. But BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, live betting, playoffs, esports, and more. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Okay. So there were 8 pitchers drafted, or 8 college pitchers drafted in the first round last year. And it's kind of interesting, the distribution of where they are. So obviously, college pitcher is going to be a lot more prepared than a high school pitcher is. Going to be a lot more able to, much better able to go ahead and compete at a higher level. They're more of a finished product. They're more polished. That's why the Angels took 19 college pitchers out of their 20 picks last year. One high school guy, and then one of the college guys didn't sign. He came back. So they signed 19 pitchers from the draft, and 18 were college guys. So the highest drafted was number 2 overall. Jack Leiter from Vanderbilt, he's a Vandy boy, was drafted by the Rangers. And he was actually, because of the COVID year, he was a 4th-year sophomore. He had only, hadn't competed as much as a lot of other guys. but he is in Double-A right now. So he's with the Frisco Rough Riders. He's already, I believe, the number 1 or number 2 prospect in that system, depending on who you talk to, which thing you look at. There's a possibility, very remote, there's a possibility he may be like a September call-up, pitch a game or two at the big league level, see how he does, and then compete for a job out of spring training next year. Wouldn't be the first time that a guy was called up the same year that he was drafted. If anybody does it, I feel like of this entire group, it would be Jack Leiter, simply because he is so advanced. He's been doing this for so long, and he knows what he's doing. Obviously, the bloodlines help his dad, Al, and all of that. So, yeah, number 2 overall in the draft is the number 2 overall prospect for Texas, and is at Double-A. The next guy we talked about just last week, Sam Bachmann. So Sam Bachmann went to Miami of Ohio. He was a 4th-year junior, was taken at 9 by the Angels. And as we talked about last week, he is in Double-A and is doing rather well for himself. I don't think he would be a call-up this year. He feels like a guy that if he has a great year, you move him up to Triple-A later this year, and then you let him compete for a job out of spring training next year. I could be wrong, though. They've already called up Chase Silseth from last year's draft, and he's already at the big league level. I think taking so many college pitchers is a sign that they are okay with them getting to the big league sooner rather than later, because they need pitching at the big league level. Right now, a lot of what they are doing is around Shohei Ohtani and Patrick Sandoval, which you love former prospect Sandoval to be clicking on all cylinders and figuring it out, but they need some more help. And so, you've already seen Silseth come up. You may see Sam Bachmann come up later this year. I don't know. It feels like he's a 23 guy. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. So we'll see what happens there. Number 10, kind of an infamous one here, Kumar Rocker. Also out of Vanderbilt. Watched him have a great duel in the College World Series. Mets took him, and we all know the story here. They saw something in the medicals that they said they did not like. So they offered him, the verbal agreement that they have, they tore it up. They gave him a much lower deal. Ended up not signing him, not giving him a signable offer, from what I understand. At least not one that was publicized. They got a compensatory pick in the first round this year, which tells me they extended him some sort of offer. I just don't think it was a very good one or a very legitimate one. So because of that, he did not sign. He's the highest player to not sign in last year's draft. He is right now in the Frontier League. He is going to probably do about 2 or 3 starts and then enter the draft process again to get drafted. And I feel like, one, the issue there is if teams know, we just don't have to sign him, nobody else gets his rights, and we get a first-round pick next year, you lower the incentive to do what's right by the player. It wasn't right that they did not give him a signable offer and that he did not get to play for a year. So, a couple things that have changed. One thing that did not change, but I think that should, is if you don't get, you get to be a free agent if your team doesn't sign. And they kind of tweak that. So the way it works now, we're going to call it the Kumar Rocker Rule. It's pretty much what it is. The way that this works is before the draft, I would assume the combine, you go through a physical with MLB-approved doctors. Those medicals are given to all 30 teams. If you are drafted, and I believe it's in the top 10 rounds or top 15, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If you are drafted, those teams already have had access to your medicals. They are required, there's a couple things they are required to do. Number 1, they are required to offer you a deal that is at least 75% of slot value. So if your slot value is $4 million, they are required to offer you at least 3 to sign. Okay, thing number 1. And that is so Kumar Rocker, that, they saw his elbow, they would be required, they knew it was there, they would have known it was an issue when they drafted him and would have been required to offer him 75% of the value versus the rumored 25% or whatever tiny thing it was. Change number 2, if you do not sign that player by, and I think it's some date in late August, but the date is chosen to correspond with the college enrollment calendar. If you do not sign that player who you had his medicals, you're required to offer 75%. If you end up not signing him, he becomes a free agent. He doesn't go back in the pool for the next year. He doesn't have to go back to college. He can either choose to go back to college or he becomes a free agent and can negotiate with anybody. That's the change that I like because it empowers the player and it doesn't punish them because a team decides, oh, well, we're going to cheap out. We're going to offer you, we're going to cheap out and offer you less or something like I like that change. Because even if you draft a senior who has no eligibility left, you still can't lowball him and not give him enough money because you have to give him 75% or else he can be a free agent. I like that rule. Anyway, back to this list. So number 14, guy you'll remember, workhorse of the College World Series champion Mississippi State Bulldogs, Will Bednar. So Will Bednar, 14th pick by the Giants. Interesting thing here, the season was so long for him, he only threw 7 innings after the draft last year. So they draft a little bit later in the year. You have time to get into a short season thing, rookie ball, whatever. Only threw 7 innings. So right now, he is in A ball. He's not in high A. He's not in double A. He's in A ball. So interesting assignment there. I figured, he was born in 2000, so he's 22. You remember our ages thing from yesterday. It kind of tracks with that with single A. I feel like he probably needs to be in high A sooner rather than later. I'd love for him to do that, but this is something where, in essence, this year was his first taste of professional baseball, and right now he's appeared in 8 games, thrown 27 innings, sporting a 3.58 ERA. So 33 strikeouts, 15 walks. He's allowing a 132 batting average. Whip is just under 1. So not necessarily dominating A ball, but he's holding his own. And I think that's something where, obviously, as he gets a little more, confidence underneath him and acclimates to the level, they're going to go ahead and bump him to high A, I'd imagine, probably within the next month or so, simply because they want to get him moving along. Gunnar Hoglund, 19th overall pick out of Ole Miss, was drafted and signed with the Blue Jays. He's recovering from Tommy John, so he is not playing right now, but he was traded. He was part of the Matt Chapman deal, so he got traded from Toronto to the Oakland Athletics. So he switched organizations in the middle of rehab from Tommy John. I imagine that's probably a little bit tricky and interesting because you got to have medical staffs get together. And I'm sure there's probably something in there about they had access to his medicals before just to kind of see how he was progressing. Interesting thing there. So number 21, Jordan Wicks, Kansas State lefty. I don't believe they were in the College World Series last year, but drafted by the Cubs, signed. He is in high A right now, which is kind of where a lot of college players will start their career. Jack Leiter, Sam Bachmann, very much the exception versus the rule. You don't taking a college guy straight to double A, his first full season is an aggressive promotion. So high A, more of typically what you would see. Same thing with the number 23 guy, Gavin Williams out of East Carolina. Same thing. Drafted by the Guardians. He is in high A as well. Again, makes sense. That's kind of where you'd expect him to be. The last college pitcher taken in the first round, Ryan Cusick out of Wake Forest, the righty, by the Braves. He was also traded to the Athletics. That one was the Matt Olson deal. So the Athletics end up... So it's funny. They drafted infielder last year, Max Muncy, the high schooler, not different Max Muncy. How confusing is that? So they draft a high school infielder, and then in trades, they trade for 2 college pitchers from last year's first round. So, so Ryan Cusick is a member of the A's now. He is also in Double A. So again, aggressive promotion. And it's something where those Wake Forest guys are considered not to be finished products, but very polished as pitchers. Wake Forest has a pitching lab, very high tech, with motion capture and all that kind of stuff, where they can go in there and they can they work on pitchers and can help break down kinetic chain and fix all kind of small issues. And so Wake Forest pitchers are seen as pretty polished as far as like mechanics and fundamentals and things like that. Now, some of them don't have as much projection on their development because they've already taken one of those leaps while they were there at Wake Forest. Interesting side thing there, just from talking to player development people. But yeah, aggressive promotion to Double-A. I think he'll do fine. He's a good player and a good pitcher. And in just a minute, I want to let you talk to another good player, Auburn first baseman Sonny Deshara. As I mentioned in the intro, co-SEC Player of the Year, and he actually was named to the Dick Hauser Award watch list. When we interviewed him, he had been named to the watch list. He had not yet been named SEC Co-Player of the Year, so that's why we don't address it in the interview. It's something where we caught him between the end of the regular season and the beginning of the beginning of postseason play. So he's on Tuesday night, he plays game 1 of the postseason in the SEC tournament. And this is really an interesting and kind of tricky time to get a draftable prospect out of college on the show because they're so focused on the postseason. And you can hear it in here. I'm talking to him a little bit about draft stuff and about MLB stuff, and he's kind of, rightfully so, focused on college. So we're going to do more of these. We're going to have more of these draftable prospects as we get closer to the draft. It's just kind of tough this early in the year to get one specifically to talk about the draft and going pro. They're going to talk about the season that was, they're going to talk about the postseason, and then we'll be able to do more MLB draft stuff as the postseason's wrapping up, as teams get eliminated, and as they're able to shift from their college seasons towards draft prep. We'll be able to have some of them on here and do that. So, interview with Sonny Deshara coming up in just a second, but first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Athletic Greens. This is a product I use literally every single day. I start taking AG1 because I have celiac disease, and because of that, I don't absorb nutrients from my food the way that most people do. And so I've always had to take a bunch of multivitamins and supplements and things like that. It's a lot of money, a lot of pills to be taken every day because I'm not getting enough iron or whatever it may be. Well, with AG1, with one scoop, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics. It is very, very easy. You wake up first thing in the morning. Again, it's one scoop. You drop it into a cup of water, shake it up. That's it. You don't have to take a ton of pills, a ton of supplements, and things like that. So you can reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Auburn first baseman Sonny Deshara joining us for the next few minutes here on LockedOn Auburn and LockedOn MLB Prospects. A little crossover action here on the LockedOn Podcast Network. Sonny, the postseason is finally here as you guys are getting ready to travel up to Hoover a day earlier than you guys were probably expecting to going into this past weekend. But what are your thoughts going into this conference tournament?
Oh, it's definitely going to be a good time, man. I've looked forward to doing something like this my whole life, being from Hoover. So, I mean, it's gonna be good to go down there and just try to get a couple games and eventually try to win the whole thing. It's gonna be a long week, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes to a thing like a conference tournament for somebody like the SEC, the top conference in amateur baseball, there's going to be a lot of MLB scouts who are there watching these games, checking out what's going on. I know that you're kind of focused on obviously winning the tournament and doing what you have to do, but what do you think that MLB scouts are looking to see from you as they're getting their draft boards ready for the draft in July?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you on that. I don't know, man. Obviously, that's something I've been looking forward to as well, just getting the opportunity to play it at the next level. And, we're just going to keep focused on this postseason and just see how things roll out and see how things end up at the end of the year. And I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah. And talking about the year, you just finished a regular season batting 382, 25th in the country, on base of 561, slugging of 782. So you led the entire country in walks per game with almost 1.2 walks per game. Did you expect that when you transferred up into the SEC that you would lead the league and lead the country in walks?
Yeah, no, that's definitely something I did not think that was going to happen. I mean, I think last year I ended up having like 49 walks or something like that, and then my freshman year I had, I don't know, maybe 30 something, and I don't know, man. That's 60. How many walks is it, like 64, 65, 65 walks, man. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, 57 walks. Yeah,
57 walks in 48
man.
games.
Yes.
I mean, and it's got to be cool to see, Coach Thompson kind of moved around the batting order towards the end of the season to kind of, kind of base that around you. So other teams wouldn't do that as much and it didn't really slow anybody down. But like, that's got to be such a huge compliment of, man, this is what my head coach thinks of me. And he's willing to kind of change the approach to kind of, better suit me. That's got to be a cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never hit a 2-hole before. And I think my first time hitting 2-hole was game 2 against Alabama. And I mean, it's not really a difference to me, but I mean, if it's going to help us try to maneuver some wins and trying to get around the game, I mean, that's fine with me, man. It really hadn't put a difference on me. Was
there any talk of you leading off? Any talk at all?
No.
You didn't lobby for it or anything?
I don't think I can lead off. No, I think I'm one stolen base short of that. So no lead off.
So as you get to this postseason, I know that obviously the goal is for the team to win. Obviously for Auburn to go deep into the SEC tournament, hopefully get a top 8 seed to host for the regionals. But personally, like what kind of goals do you have? What do you want to do in this SEC tournament and then in the postseason?
Obviously, we want to win this thing. We want to win this thing coming up. So like at Sanford, we had to, if we wanted to even chance to go into a regional, we had to win the SoCon tournament. And that's how it is for every SoCon team. And so just like having that in the back of my mind, and 2 other Sanford guys here too. So we just know that, and we know how difficult it is just to be an original. And, we put ourselves in a good spot to get into a regional and hopefully host one. But I think we got to do some work in Hoover if we want to be one of those top 8 seeds, those top 8 national seeds.
Sonny, what's the dynamic of you guys playing Kentucky again? I mean, you just went up there and played them, and then you get to play them in Hoover. What is that like?
I don't even know, man. I don't know what playing a team 4 times in a row is like. Like last year, we played, since with COVID and all that, so we played. There was 7 other teams in the conference, and so we played 3 of those teams 6 times, and that was super weird. Just seeing another team 6 times, it's definitely going to be a weird feeling, but hopefully we can get the better of them this time. Hopefully we can play a game with uninterrupted weather and just play a full 3 hours.
Settle a debate.
Not 9 hours.
Yeah, for real. Settle a debate that we had. How much different is it playing on turf versus playing on grass and clay? Because Kentucky's one of those college teams that has everything but the mound is artificial. Like, how different is that for a fielder and then for a runner?
So what the faster guys say is that running on turf makes them faster, which I don't experience that much. But I mean, as playing it on it goes, I mean, there's obviously a difference, but like on turf, you're just not going to get that bad hop. It's going to be more bouncy. Like choppers are going to be bouncy, and balls that get down in the outfield are going to be more bouncy. But I'd rather play on dirt and grass 10 out of 10. But I mean, there's not that much of a difference, to be honest with you. You just, I guess, really the pace of the ball and the pace of play might be a little quicker on turf, just because of how it's built.
Okay. And then kind of to build off of that, when you play at a place like Hoover that has those larger dimensions than most of the college places that you play at, how does that change your approach as a hitter as far as, well, now it's 410 down the line versus 380 or something like that? How does that change things for you?
Yeah. It doesn't really change much for me. I mean, I'm still just trying to hit that double in the gap that, could get over the fence. And so I think we played at Kentucky's this past weekend, and so I mean their field is huge. It's probably the same dimensions as Hoover's, 330 down the line and 400 in center. But down the right field line might be a little bit shorter in Kentucky than Hoover. But I mean, I've played at Hoover probably 25 games in my career, throughout high school, and so I mean I've just been able to just know how that park flies, and some days it flies and some days it doesn't. So I mean, just hitting line drives there is just going to be the key.
And then the chance where you guys are going to play pretty late Tuesday night, that'll probably be the latest first pitch of the season. Does that play into anything?
No, not really. I think I mean I've been going to those late games at Hoover that end at like 2 or 3 a.m. my whole life, and I was just always thinking about how cool it'd be to be a part of them. So,
oh really? Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean those are those are the most packed games. I mean everybody's there to watch those, and just looking forward to that. Hopefully the weather stays away, but it's supposed to be some bad weather next week,
right?
Or this week, I mean.
Yeah. We're looking forward to getting to watch you in the tournament and getting to let these scouts and things like that see your game. Give me the name of a teammate that maybe isn't well known to people who are preparing for the MLB draft and things like that, but a guy that absolutely can play at the next level and is draft eligible that we should be paying attention to next week.
I want to say all my teammates, but I mean the guy that's really draft eligible, Blake Rambo, has just been lights out this year. He's me and him are the same age, same grade, and so, man, he's held down that corner. He could play any position on the field, and I don't know, maybe he's hitting around 350. He's just that solid leadoff piece, and he's a baller.
He's hitting 351 with 80 hits. He actually leads the SEC in hits. And if I remember right, there was a point in the season where he had an on-base streak dating back 2 years to Grayson College before it finally got broken this year. Yeah, 351, 431, 461 for Blake Rambo. So a guy that can play at third, and has some starts in the outfield, has led off almost every game except when he's hitting behind you and then stealing some bases. Mm-hmm. So definitely a guy to be watching for the SEC tournament. Yeah.
Sonny, thank you for your time, bud. Really appreciate it. And best of luck this weekend up in Hoover.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Fantastic interview with Sonny Deshara. Glad to have him on. Best of luck to Auburn in the SEC tournament, which again starts tonight. The games are probably on when you're listening to this. Auburn plays their first game sometime around 7 or 8 p.m. I believe the whole thing's going to be on SEC Network Plus if you want to follow him and his team along. Reminder, if you have questions for the show, I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. The show's on Twitter at LockedOn Farm, or you can email us, LockedOnMLBProspects@gmail.com. But until then, this has been Locked On MLB Prospects.